I lived sunrise in Cusco and perhaps sunset in Puno on Lake Titicaca in Peru. From the rooftop of the hostel, we again have quite a sweeping view of the city. It's been a couple of minutes since I've returned from Lake Titicaca proper, and I live with locals on an island called Amantani. While also visiting 3 islands in total. Am I gonna vlog about this experience, or am I going to do something else? Let me think. I'm a little conflicted here. Mostly because the experience was simultaneously eye-opening and weird. I've done this before. I've lived with locals, and the more I do it, the more I question what I'm doing, or what we're doing here. Tourism in itself is a way to learn, a way to exchange cultures, grow, all of that good shit, but the more I travel with locals, the more things feel somewhat performative. Now, I'm always careful to explain that performative is a neutral term. We're all performative in our own ways. You perform for your boss. I'm lucky I have no boss. I perform for myself then. But we all perform in our own ways, and business necessitates that. I guess the problem would be what I'm trying to recreate is hard to do when money's involved. I've couch surfed before, around the world actually, on all the continents, and because there's no money exchanged, I think that couch surfing is a much more authentic experience. When money is involved, it just always pollutes things, and it's got nothing to do with the people. It's got everything to do with the way life is, the structure of life. So while I enjoyed the natural beauty of the Titicaca Islands, those were greatly exceeding any expectations because I had none. The interactions with locals were muted and strange, I think. Again, that could be me being the weird energy. I have no clue. I'm just thinking about what I actually think. This is maybe too close to the experience for me to really recount it in a way that makes sense. Part of the culture is performance, though, because they love their song and dance. And last night, the night that I overnighted in Amantani Island, we had a big fiesta where we bailared all into close to my bedtime, 10 p.m. But I have no clue. I'm working this out live as I vlog, so maybe I will talk myself into understanding what has happened. But I guess the point of the matter would be, I think it's very difficult to have authentic connections with locals when money is involved. But how are you going to have other connections? Well, you just basically wander the streets, do things on your own, and that'll be that. any type of situation where you have to do an organized type of tour is probably going to necessitate that this happens. Now, living with the people already helps the situation because you learn a lot by sleeping in someone's house. I slept in the president of Amantani's house last night. The presidency is a rotating positionship on that island. And I mean, maybe what it is there's a culture gap or a language gap. I should probably start a series called Speaking Shitty Spanish, because that's what I do. Maybe that's part of the problem too. When my Spanish is shitty, it's hard to maybe understand each other. And I'm here to learn. I'm here to engross myself in their culture, but maybe they were already trying to do that. It's just that me no comprende. Maybe that's the problem. I have no idea. Okay. For now, I'm going to concentrate on the natural splendors of these islands because that greatly exceeded my expectation. I had no clue that that was going to happen, and it did. It did in spades, and I'm happy with the outcome of that. What I greatly enjoy is the Inca terraces. I'll call them the Inca terraces, but they're actually terraced land for agricultural reasons. But when you're taking pictures from afar, they just make these splendid patterns that look good, that look great. And that's something that has often captured my fancy. Each of the islands actually has its own characteristic, even its own language that has very little crossover. For example, being of Chinese ethnicity, I can speak 2 languages, Cantonese and Mandarin. But there are similarities, though. So oftentimes when I am struggling, I will just twist my pronunciation a bit and you can understand each other. But with the local native languages in Lake Titicaca, they are very different, and that's been confirmed by my guide who was born on these floating islands of Lake Titicaca. Okay. Am I gonna, maybe, yeah, I'll gander a walk over. This rooftop terrace is nice. I'll gander a walk over, see if the internet holds. If it drops, no idea how I'm feeling. I'm feeling a certain kind of way, and rarely for me, it's hard for me to identify what exactly the problem is. What's the problem here? What is the problem? All right. Oh, Jesus. Okay. This set is causing some problems here. Okay. Oof. Okay. I know what it is. I know what it is. In the middle of the floating islands of Lake Titicaca, they have several bars serving alcohol. And maybe my problem is with alcohol. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what is the concern for me. Because I sort of feel like alcohol, while it's a social lubricant, it just masks people. There's a lot of fakeness. There's also a lot of weird trueness, but in a way that people often regret. So, is it authentic if you regret it the next day? That's a good question to ask. To be fair, I'm comfortable with the fact that humanity has interacted with substances time memoriam. Okay, people have manipulated the environments, the plants, and other things around them to obtain a different state of mind. And that's fine, but I think part of the problem is it's extremely westernized. And sometimes I wonder about that. Is it westernized, or is it that fundamentally people like this thing? This alcohol-induced fiesta, I hoping would happen without the alcohol. I guess that's really the question that I have. Do people act the way they act because they're on substances, or do substances enhance what's already there? That's maybe more of a philosophical question that goes beyond the people of Lake Titicaca. But there's just something weird about watching tribespeople drink alcohol and act a fool and act a fool or be themselves. Again, I just wish people could be free without the substance, because when the substance is involved, there's always that question about how much of it is you and how much of it is the substance. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I probably am. But suffice to summarize that I am conflicted about visiting natives and tribes people. I'm conflicted because every time I've done it through an organized tour, it's been weird, strange, and performative. But when I've been on my lonesome, wandering streets, interacting with locals, things have felt authentic. Again, I think money exchange pollutes everything, and that goes beyond tourism. It's commerce in general. Again, without making it sound like I'm trying to blame people, we're all performing. If you work, you perform. If you interact and live in a society, you perform. But I think it's because I've had the pleasure of being mostly myself most of the time that I just would prefer otherwise. But in preferring otherwise, I have to take on a lot of load myself. I have to organize, logistic my way through things, and sometimes that can be tiring. So anyways, this has been a 15-minute long vlog already, and I'm feeling like I want to go to sleep because it's off to